Good evening and welcome to Going for Two. This is the only YouTube podcast in human recorded history to feature a male and female co-hosts drinking our way through the important topics of the day, as long as they touch the football world and not in that way. I am Zach Law and this is Sharona Stormborn. She brings the big guests, I bring the big beer, and tonight we have a special guest. Before we show our guest, we're going to show off our little, honorarium of the Pittsburgh Penguins and their championship. But of course, I had to represent with a throwback jersey,
See, that was just for you. He was so excited.
Yeah.
like sweating in my chair because of this. So the sad thing is, I only discovered that the Penguins were doing well in the playoffs because my parents came to visit, and I never could wear this jersey because it's too damn hot. But, I had it. I had it in my heart. But Sigmund Bloom returns, and let me say this about the man. He promised that he would be back on the show as soon as Pittsburgh team won another championship. As luck would have it, that event recently happened.
Yeah.
We're here two Pittsburghers, and I will share a brief story before we get started. My dad, of course, from Pittsburgh originally, but season ticket holder for the Tennessee Titans. So every time Neil O'Donnell, who now is like a Nashville resident, goes by, my dad yells, "Go back to Jersey, Neil!"
Yeah. The Bengals have an opening. Yeah, that's well. If you allow me to, and this is how much I love Zach and Sharona, and I really do mean love. Love is the theme. Love is always the theme.
Love is the theme.
It is my birthday, hence 41 is the new 21. And I could think of nothing better to do than to spend it with the people that I love, not just the two of you, but our community, but truly the two of you. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. You mentioned Neil O'Donnell.
Yes.
And well, first I want to say, toast to the Penguins, a ragtag bunch. The Penguins. I'll mention this: the Penguins have won the Stanley Cup 4 times, and each time it was the coach's first year with the team. So chemistry and continuity and all that, Penguins. They don't believe in that. They get hot at the right time. Neil O'Donnell is probably, I think, Francisco Cabrera. The Nashville Predators had a pretty good postseason, right? Tennessee had something to be happy about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we should make a nod there. I think Francisco Cabrera is probably the only name that would give you more cringes and groans if you brought it up to Pittsburgh sports fan than Neil O'Donnell. Because for those of you that can remember, and I know my two friends here can remember that Super Bowl well. That Super Bowl, the Dallas Cowboys were like the evil empire or the house in blackjack or whatever you want to, unbeatable. And the first half of that game, the Cowboys were pushing the Steelers all over the place. They were Cowboys in them. And then Bill Cowher calls the onside kick, and you have Bam Morris. Before there was the bus, there was Bam Morris, and the momentum. I mean, you could feel it. Everybody in the country could feel it. The only people that wanted the Cowboys to win were the Cowboys homers, and they had won so many times in the last few years. Who cares about them? The country, it was like the Rocky movie, when the music starts, da 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 da. Neil O'Donnell. He denied us of, it might have been the quintessential Pittsburgh victory in sports if they had been able to pull that off, but instead, the Cowboys got it. But then I think was that the last Super Bowl the Cowboys won, and the last one they'll ever win?
Probably.
Shots fired.
Well, but really, for Pittsburgh fans to cry about not winning champions, and,
I know.
Feel
sorry for Detroit fans now. Is that who we feel sorry for now? Detroit fans.
The Predators may have made the postseason, but Nashville, the Titans haven't. They've not been to the playoffs since 2008, and this may be the year for the Tennessee Volunteers, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, how about Buffalo? How about the Buffalo Bills?
Well, there you go. Yeah.
We all remember what happened the last time. Speaking of Tennessee, the last time the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs, I think it was 1999, the Music City Miracle, and we all, speaking of the Dallas Cowboys, robbing teams of their dreams. Yes, but it's my birthday, so I should try not to. I should bring it up, not down.
Happy birthday! We really appreciate you joining us anytime, but to have you on your birthday, that's really super special.
Hey, you guys are special. Our community is special.
I think Sigmund's having a diet water tonight, but just wanted to show that I'm drinking a Victory Kirsch Goza because Sharon doesn't like when I drink beer that has any kind of fruit in it.
I
Oh, yeah.
It's
He's
sour,
such a
goes in,
frou-frou drinker.
cooler,
I like the
sweeter.
IPAs, like the Sculpin, a lot of the IPAs with citrus. I think that fruit
Very
and
popular
beer,
this summer.
they're doing it very well. The Shandies, I think that they've done it well. And again, on my birthday, I feel like I should say I can remember whenever a Sam Adams was exotic, you know.
Mhm.
Maybe a Sam Smith's a big bomber like Sam Smith's oatmeal stout. So we all are in a wonderful golden age of beers. We have Zach to help guide us.
My very first my very first fantasy football draft period was a live one, and I got introduced to Yingling beer, and that was
Ooh.
exotic for me.
Mm-hmm.
I am drinking a New Belgium 1554, which is a black lager. It's quite tasty.
You know, can I go get a beer?
Yes,
Give
absolutely.
me a second. I will go get a beer. I should have a beer, not water. Hold on.
You're on the right show for that.
So, Zach, did you cry on your beer this weekend because no Game of Thrones? I did.
Well, I mean, I definitely missed it, but it was an enjoyable run while it lasted, and it had to move on.
By the way, Zach's having some
Yeah.
weather.
Yeah, we're having a bit of thunderstorm action here, and the cats are not happy. And actually, I might take my Penguins jersey off now because it's freaking hot. Oh my God, it's hot.
Where's the stripper music?
That's right, everybody. The clothes are coming off, and Sigmund's coming back.
Okay, now I get to do that too. So I felt left out. I've got an easy peasy IPA
Yeah.
from Deep Ellum in Dallas, Texas. If you go down to Deep Ellum, put your money in your shoe, but get a beer because it's good. And this is an IPA with, of course, over there, like tangerine and lemon peel, as I was just referring to.
Wow.
It's very
It's
cute packaging.
A Sigmund drink here. Now, I had one earlier tonight. This is from Second Self, which is a local. But the beer name is one of the greatest ever. Maverick and Gouda, Maverick and Goose.
Yep.
The only beer that's 4% that Sharona will make fun of. Actually, she probably will. But that's okay. So, Sigmund, I know we're kind of in even the off-season for football beat writers, but have you had an opportunity to sink your teeth into the Arizona Cardinals show on Amazon Prime?
I haven't yet. I saw Matt Harmon, my good friend, my nephew, talking about seeing John Brown catch that touchdown from Carson Palmer. I do need to. I've been on vacation, and I'm about to go on vacation again. I was back in Pittsburgh, but I definitely need to sink my teeth into it. But go on, Zach. Go on.
Well, it's basically Bruce Arians saying motherfucker every other word, which is great.
That's fantastic.
I mean, you're used to like the NFL networks where everything's really sanitized. And I think overall the show, they have the usual trip, but they do show the little bits of the NFL that you get. Maybe Ryan Riddle would want to watch the part where the practice squad guy gets kicked off the team because he parked in Bruce Arians' parking space. And, they give a little love to the lower guys, but it's all about Honey Badger and Palmer, and the return of Chris Johnson and David Johnson, and which running back did they really want to take in that spot instead? Amir Abdullah. But the Lions took away.
It worked out okay for them.
How different would their season would have been? I mean, it's crazy. David Johnson, Northern Iowa. It's funny that I was talking to someone who was like a Northern Iowa guy and mentioned Kurt Warner. I'm like, come on, David Johnson, you got like a more recent, example from your school. It's showing off big time.
And I want to say Northern Iowa had one of the great first round NCAA upsets. Basketball I can remember from the 90s. But Kurt Warner should be. Can we all agree that Kurt Warner deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? Are we all on the same page?
Well, do you think? I would say definitely. But do you think that there's going to be a bit of a logjam at that position because there's just going to be so many guys?
Yeah.
And I think wide receivers a lot like that. Like guys are going to have numbers that would have instantly got you in the Hall of Fame, like 1,000 catches, 10,000 yards, and now like 60 guys seem to have gotten those numbers. But the fact that Kurt Warner, I'm not sure if he still has it, but for a while he had the top 3 passing days in Super Bowl history.
Yeah.
And he could have got the Rams and the Cardinals a Super Bowl, but for one, Roethlisberger pass to guy gets kicked off the team 2 weeks later. At number 10, can we talk about number 10 in the Steelers? We may have brought that up last time, but what a strangely cursed number.
Yeah. So you're talking about Santonio Holmes, right?
It's Antonio Holmes, Cordell Stewart, and then
Oh, the Martavis Bryant. Yeah. Poor Martavis. Speaking of, I had Martavis in one or two, maybe three leagues last year. I had David Johnson all over the place in fantasy last year, and that turned out pretty well for me. And that was because some of my drafts were so early and the injury bug had bitten. I was like starting him early, and his special teams points were really helpful.
Yeah, well, I remember Bob Harris was on my show week 2 or week 3, and he just said David Johnson excites me not for this week or this month, but for week 12, week 13, week 14, and I'm going to draft him. I'm not going to drop him. And I think I actually did drop him in the Football Guys staff league around week 10 or 11. So I did not listen to Bob Harris. So listen to my show, not to listen to me, but to listen to the people that I have on.
We're hoping to get Bob on this show pretty soon. Sadly, he wasn't able to get us the Heisenberg beer. That was pretty limited in New Mexico. So today I saw, I think it was Run for Time, he started up an MFL 100. And you're really big on doing the MFL 10. Have you, taken that leap yet?
I haven't. I did. You know what's funny? I did one MFL 25 last year, and because $25. I don't know why. I drafted more conservatively, and I actually won it. And it bailed out my whole MFL 10 year because I had a terrible MFL 10 year. I think out of 40 leagues, I may have won 2. But 100, well, I'll have to think about it. See, the thing is, now you're going to get me off on a tangent here, but this is a breezy show.
It is a tangent.
It is a tangent. Yeah, life is a tangent. My father is actually a compulsive gambler, and I've gone to Gamblers Anonymous meetings with him. And I don't want to find out if I'm a compulsive gambler. I think that I've just gone, instead of being a junkie, now I'm a pusher. But the thing is, season-long fantasy football it doesn't give you the instant payoff, because for gambling to encourage compulsive gambling, it has to be that feedback loop, like when you're at the track or you're at the table and you get a hand. Fantasy football, you don't find out what your results are for 4 or 5 months later. But I feel like if I put $100 on a team, I would probably obsess about it. There's a few teams that I put more than that into just because of the skill level. It's a 16-team salary cap dynasty and things like that, so I get a lot of entertainment out of that. But the $100 MFL 10, I would probably actually be a bit angry if my picks shanked. Where MFL 10s, I'm just paying for my research. But I should now. Now, Zach, you're making me think that I need to go ahead and step up and get into MFL 100 with fellow industry experts, or maybe we'll do something. So you've got that light bulb on my head going on now.
Well, I have to say, in MFL 10, I think 2 years ago, I did like one league and I came in second, so I got the free league. But I did one MFL 25 last year, and I like the fact that I came in second. I doubled my money, because in the MFL 10, you come in second, you get free leagues, you pretty much break even. Well, actually, technically, it's a little bit, but you break even enough. So I kind of like that, and I think the 50 and 100 do the same thing where if you come in second. So you're just really close, because I was in a battle. I can't remember who it was with, but it was like every week we're going back and forth, and ended up losing by like 20 points, and I was kind of glad that I had that. But I was just wondering, because for me, look in the shadows, far from the maddening expert crowd, I tend to try to get to the public leagues. Last year, every time I got into an MFL 10, it was with like all people who had played like 50 of them. I felt like it was murder row, and it was a really tough competition. I mean, it's the price of a movie ticket-ish, and it's enjoyable. And don't you think that these kind of leagues with best ball really help out for people who like to play DFS? Who don't have to set lineups every week?
Yeah, there's a lot of good things about MFL 10s. I think if you play any sort of your home league or office league that you're serious about, that it really matters to you to win it, doing MFL 10s is so much better than a mock draft. The $10 you put in, even without the expected value of your chances of winning, gives you live ammunition. It's not the same as a mock draft. People are drafting with more beliefs, and you actually think about your picks more, because there's something on the line, even if it's a minimal amount of money. And what it allows you to do, if you do, I don't know, even 3 or 5 of them, is you start to understand the twists and turns of a draft. And you start to see how, okay, in this draft, everything felt the way I wanted it to, and I ended up with the players I wanted. But in this next draft, it was harder, and I had to go to my second, third, and fourth choices, which then in turn changed the round I thought I was going to take a quarterback in, and things start to ripple out. Because I think one of the main things to good fantasy football drafting is flexibility. It's almost like getting a chance to, take a boat down a river and then truck it back up and then take it down the river again, and you're seeing some different little eddies and currents in some places. Oh, now I know now that if that happens, I'm going to get to the left side when I see that happening. You can run those things through. You can try some different draft positions. You don't get to choose your draft position. So this is all helpful for you understanding what you're getting into in the real draft, the one that you really care about. And then it allows you to do some fun things, right? Because it's basically winner take all. Like you said, in the MFL 25, MFL 100, you have a second place. And second place in NFL 10 will be an entry for the next year. But winner take all means third place will be the same as 12th place. So you're not trying to be safe. Like, there's a variation of best ball called survivor contests, where you just don't want to be the lowest score in any given week. You want to make it to the end. So that means you want to avoid all the horrible outcomes, and playing it safe is selected for. But when you're going for a winner-take-all type team, then you are taking, like, I was taking Ezekiel Elliott in the third round in those early drafts. That worked out really well. The point is you're looking for those high-ceiling outcomes. So when you get to the second half of your draft, you're looking for those high-ceiling Sammy Coates or Jeff Janis or whoever it is for you. And when those players, it gives you a chance to have those players hits, and it is very gratifying when you can find that one player. Of course, there are also some of my early MFL 10s this year where I took Martavis Bryant, so we won't talk about that.
That one's got to hurt it. Sigmund, are you involved? Are you doing the Scott Fish Bowl 480 this year?
I am. I can't remember which division I'm in. I don't know if it's the Scarlett Johansson division or I think it's like badass women. I think it's the badass women division. Yeah, I am in this year, and I'm glad. And it's, where I'm at now, it's really hard to find time to put any new leagues in that I have to manage going back to the MFL 10 team. But Scott has done such an incredible job with this contest, and I couldn't say no. I mean, everyone's talking about it, I felt left out, and I don't now. So I'm really looking forward to it.
How do you deal with a league like this? I mean, there's actually kind of two levels. I mean, quarterback flex changes everything, as they say. And then I think tight ends have a PPR bonus. And, of course, the odd running back quarter point per carry, changes that too. So how do you deal with a league where you kind of have this more flexibility than others, maybe?
Well, I think that it just means that your research at each position becomes, look, when we do an MFL 10, for instance, we're going to use MFL 10s in every answer tonight. You know that, look, in an MFL 10, you can wait to the 14th and 15th round to take your quarterbacks, and you're fine. You can win an MFL 10, no problem, with Jay Cutler and Alex Smith as your quarterbacks. No problem at all. Because you've banked advantages at other positions by foregoing the mid-round quarterbacks, even the quarterbacks going in the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th rounds. Tight end, you could do more things with tight end in a typical redraft league. If there's only 12 playing, you can wait. You can get my man Black Unicorn, Martellus Bennett. You can get Antonio Gates. You can get Eric Ebron. You can get some upside plays, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, whoever you want. You can afford to slough a position, like truly slough a position. When you add in quarterback flex, when you add in a tight end premium, and even running back, because I think we're all starting to trend towards zero running back or mid-round running back this year. Again, in MFL 10s, if you just look at the lay of the land, there's a lot of really solid running backs, especially for PPR in the mid-rounds. Your Duke Johnson, Danny Woodhead, Giovanni Bernard, Charles Sims, and even guys like Matt Jones, Jay Jai. I mean, these default Jeremy Langford, Ryan Matthews. You could go no running backs in the first 4 rounds and still have a chance to put together a very solid, if not above average running back core. When you add in these scoring twists, it means that you have to take stands at every position because there's not going to be a safe haven because of the amped up scoring. And then this reminds me of Robert Wright, my man. He's probably the greatest fantasy football mind that very few people know about. He goes by Chaos Commish. Back those old football guys, message board members, you know who I'm talking about. He was the only other one out there on the Brandon Marshall Island with me in 2006. Anyway, he does this draft. I think it's Goy to Pankel. I forget. It's something. It's some slur against kickers. If it's like an acronym, no kickers. But every other position we do 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers. I think another flex plus really amped up IDP scoring with 2 defensive ends, defensive tackle, 4 linebackers, or maybe like a defensive flex, 2 safeties, 2 corners. Here's the point I'm getting to. I do have a point, usually, sometimes. In the first round, you might see 7 or 8 different positions taken. And as the draft goes on, you have no idea when the runs are going to come at different positions. You have no idea when the seal is going to be broken. So you have to actually just take players you believe in.
Those drafts are fun.
Yeah, it's just about who do you believe in? Mm-hmm. Who do you think is going to be good this year? Not trying to game it and say, well, I know 3 rounds from now I can get another player at the position. No, because you don't know what the twists and turns of the draft are going to be. So I'm all for those kind of scoring formats because it forces you to take a stand.
Yeah, those are awesome. That sounds like a really, really, really fun league.
Oh, it's like this is your draft. This is your draft on drugs because you find yourself feeling especially if you pick near the turn, like stunned when you watch what happened and you think, okay, there's 6 more players coming up at wide receiver that I would take at the next turn. And 9 wide receivers go, even though only 2 had gone in the previous 20 picks. So it's really unpredictable, and it makes everybody at the end of the draft feels like they had a terrible draft. Everybody's just happy the draft is over.
Yeah, but that kind of suggests that everybody's sort of thinking like you, you know?
Well, it certainly what it does. You can't again. We all have a sense of security during drafts. The classic snake draft, like around this round, these players are going to be there. So when you take that away, it really puts you in a situation that can be, for fantasy football drafting, a bit traumatic.
Mm-hmm. Unpredictability, well, it's chaos, right? From Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Yeah, I've already about to end my 3rd Scott Fishbowl and doing one of those mocks that are going on. Mm-hmm. I just got to get back. I got to get my drafting muscles going. And I'm pretty sure, I think in one of them, I ended up getting Jared Goff as my number 1 quarterback, like a 9. His quarterbacks just were gone. Like there was nobody. I think I was thinking Blaine Gabbert, and he was like taking the pick before. Like, not Blaine Gabbert. Not
right.
And you're like, oh my goodness, it was bad.
So you understand.
I mean, last year in Scott Fishbowl, I think I took the 33rd quarterback in Bortles, and I was like, ugh. But he was pretty much every week starter. Mm-hmm. And quarterback is so deep in any league. You have 1 quarterback, you're just like, this is kind of boring. So it is nice that you have to jazz it up with different rules. And if there's a mad chemist of fantasy football, it's definitely Scott Fish because he loves doing these different kind of leagues and bringing these different rules and getting you all worked up. What we have in store this year for football guys, there really isn't. You started that there is no off season, but it's definitely happening now. But I mean, when do you think it really kicks in? Like more vacation, and then you're in until February, and then of course you're going to all the All-Star games. So we'll see you again in May, right?
Right. Well, I think that what's nice. This is why one of the reasons I think fantasy football has such a hold on our country, or even other countries. We start to see people in your leagues from Ireland and Australia and so on. This is the point in the sports calendar after the NBA and NHL finals when everything goes kind of quiet. I mean, baseball fans, please don't take offense to this. I mean, this is a boring part of the baseball calendar. Nothing. It doesn't mean anything until we get to game 110 or 120 or something like that. So there's no other sports going on, and that means it's time to dive into fantasy football, and it's great. With the football guys, we found a home. I think a lot of people, just like us, most of the staff members, including myself, came from the membership, came from the message boards, came from the community. I think it's a model for the whole fantasy football industry, if you will. But yeah, things are fantastic, and I think the big news at Football Guys this year is that Simon Shepard and our crack technical team, technology masters. I am not one of them. I'm sometimes I can do an impression of a word master. The Draft Dominator is now available on all platforms. So
Oh,
finally,
cool.
finally we've cracked that. Like Linux, Windows 64. So it's available. The functionality that you enjoy on your phone now you can enjoy on all desktop. And I think this might be the last year for the classic Draft Dominator, which of course should pour one out for that. So it's cool because Football Guys generally, we don't rest, and I think part of that's because as you all have watched, the fantasy football industry over the last 5 or 6 years, especially, it's inspired. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing incredible work, innovative work, and it keeps everybody on their toes. It makes everybody better. And in the meantime, we all get to hang out and drink beers and enjoy each other's company.
Isn't that the truth? So one of my favorite things of being in like a deep dynasty league is trying to find those end of roster guys. Do you have some of yours from this year? Because I just made a bid on Desmond Lewis in Buffalo, and I know they don't throw the forward pass in Buffalo that much, but it's just fun to have these upside guys who you can drop at a moment's notice. I don't know if you had any other guys that you were like really excited about, or you're like, oh, let's take a shot on him.
Yeah, it's so gratifying, Zach. This is one of the reasons. I mean, this where's this question been my whole life? Like, can I have cancel my 9 o'clock? I'm actually getting ready to write an article about this because I do these very, very deep leagues, and I'm looking for players that fit exactly what you're talking about. Desmond Lewis is a great one. He was one that, going back to watching him in college at Central Arkansas, he was big and he could move well. Now, he still needed to learn the position, but a player as big as he is that had the very natural fluid athleticism was very difficult to find. On the Buffalo Bills, I would also add James Wilder Jr., and it may not be with Buffalo, because Buffalo's got LaShawn McCoy and Carlos Williams. Mike Gillislee looked great last year. I like the 5th-round pick they have there, Jonathan Williams from Arkansas. But Wilder is a power back. James Wilder Jr., I could actually imagine maybe being an upgrade from LeGarrette Blount in New England. Just, run really hard in that direction. He's a classic power back, and you just look around and you look for teams that can make use of a player like that. There's a wide receiver. So Cincinnati, we know wide receiver. Can you tell this makes me really excited, this question, Zach?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. In Cincinnati, there's a wide receiver, Jake Kumaro. He's like 6'5". He's kind of a player that they have stashed away, that they really like his route running. They really like how his game has come along. And you look at Cincinnati's wide receivers, and it's A.J. Green, and I know Tyler Boyd. I think that he's really overrated. Brandon LaFell, maybe. And then after that, I mean, it's special teamers, and who knows. They really like Jake Kumaro. In Carolina, they have a receiver there, Demir Bird, who's kind of I don't want to say Steve Smith, I don't want to say sacrilege names, but he's a pint-sized receiver, like 5'9", 180 guy who's really impressed them in training camp for the second year, and his game, from all accounts, has taken a big step up. So he's one that I'm watching. Looking down the list here, I'm trying to. This is a topic so near and dear to my heart that I really. There's gonna be like, Zach, you're probably one of the 50 people out there that will enjoy this. Going down these final names because it's so gratifying when they hit Eric Swope in Indianapolis. So Dwayne Allen.
About in a few weeks ago.
Yeah. See, this is. So if on the couch, me and Rich Rebar almost went there for about 5 or 10 minutes. I would love to do a whole show where all I do is talk about these players. But Swope's a basketball convert. We all know that Dwayne Allen is a fantastic football player. He cannot stay healthy. Swope's had 2 years in the incubator, switching over from basketball to football. It's time for him in this camp to show what he can do. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Trey Williams, who's a very dynamic back in space, kind of has some Lake Seastrunk qualities. That's a name that'll make people cringe. The reason Lake Seastrunk didn't hang around the league was not because he lacked football talent. Because, again, we want to know who's behind Frank Gore, and that's going to be pretty wide open, honestly. Kansas City has another basketball to football convert at tight end, Demetrius Harris, who I'm watching, who's also in his third year of developing. Let me see who else here. New Orleans has, well, it's not so much a deep sleeper because he's a rookie, but just watch Daniel Lasco, because 2 years ago at Cal, he looked like he could be a second, third round pick. Was banged up this year. He's a spark freak, because there's people that love those spark numbers out there. He's spark tested off the charts. So that indicates that maybe the 2014 back we saw is the guy that we'd be looking for instead of the 25th. Can I keep going? Am I taking up too much time?
Yes, no, please.
No, this is so exciting. Because I finally
I'm taking notes. I'm like filing all of this away.
I know.
So
I'm just hoping no one else might listen to this, but we'll see.
Right. So finally, someone invited me to talk about these guys in depth. The Giants, again, we have Odell Beckham. We all know Sterling Shepard's going to be the man. But then after that, Dwayne Harris is a pretty good slot receiver. So they have a guy, Darius Poe, who tested out really, really well this year athletically, and he's been one of the talks of training camp there. So I'll be watching him very closely. Let me see if there's any other of my favorites here, because it's been in my head. Eli Rogers. Here we go. Pittsburgh Steelers special. Eli Rogers. This is a guy who, again, they loved him in training camp last year, got hurt, and they put him on IR. Not injured, not waived injured. Okay, waived injured means that every other team has a shot to claim the player. Like whenever the Patriots took Tyler Gaffney from the Panthers tried to slip him through. The Steelers just put Rodgers on IR, straight to IR. They did not want to give other teams a chance to take him, and he's having another great training camp. And we look at this passing game, and we see, again, it's Antonio Brown, and Marcus Wheaton is disappointed. Sammy Coates, we'll see. Darius Hayward-Bay's there. But I think if Eli Rogers keeps this up, you could see him as a name that we need to remember. Tyrell Williams in San Diego, that one's a little more accessible. Well, for me, of the guys that I'm going with. Tyrell Williams came on at the end of the year last year. He's another size, speed, athleticism freak who needs to learn the position. But if injuries, Steve Johnson can't stay healthy, you get him on the field. He's been having a good training camp already. A good mini camp, good OTAs. So these are the players, and there's a theme, and I want to say, just to clear this up for the record, and I'm not anti-metrics in a way to find players that need more investigation, but we look for those players, and then we want to hear that they're developing the skills, because without skills, you can jump out of the gym, you can run fast, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to play the game. So those kinds of players, Desmond Lewis, who you started out with, Zach, we put them on the watch list, and then, minicamp and OTA, people say, don't pay any attention to that. No. We want to hear when a player shows up and it appears that they have dedicated themselves to their craft, and they're starting to show that they're taking football seriously and able to unlock that potential that the metrics will show.
Are you buying all the hype about, probably going to butcher his name, Tajay Sharp on the Titans?
Well, so I don't want to. I feel like you're my hosts here.
I know, please.
Because the exotic Smash Mouth, really?
Oh, I know, right?
Mike Malarkey,
You can do whatever you want. Trust us.
Well, I hope for the best for all fan bases and all teams. But so here's my take on the Tennessee offense this year. Okay.
Okay.
You have Marcus Mariota saying, "I'll hand off 40 times a game if I have to," which he won't, but it gives you an idea of their mentality. Okay. Exotic smash mouth, that term gives you an idea of their mentality. So you have two running backs, DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. Chances are they'll cancel each other's value out. They've already said hot hand. Well, I don't think that DeMarco Murray's had a hot hand in at least a year. Derrick Henry, we'll see. I wasn't that impressed with him. So I think you don't have one running back you can zero in on, and you wouldn't want to anyway unless you think there'll be a winning team, which I don't see happening. Then you've got the wide receivers. Okay, Kendall Wright's going to play the slot and be solid, catch 60, 70 balls maybe, but nothing that's going to make us excited for fantasy football. Dorial Green-Beckham may make some exciting plays, but if he's needing to be motivated going into his second year, knowing what we know about him, knowing what we knew about Justin Hunter and how all that went, that's not getting me excited. We have Rashard Matthews. Very solid. Again, probably will catch 50, 60, 70 balls. Might even have 3 or 4 good fantasy games in there. He's going to start on the outside. Is he going to be consistent week to week? I doubt it. Harry Douglas is, he's going to get 30 or 40 catches. He's not going to he's not going to go away in this offense. He's going to play a role. And then you have Sharp. And Sharp's, I'm sure, on a trajectory for a solid career. But if you're sharing the ball with 4 other receivers, plus Delaney Walker, who was the leading target getter, the leading receiver last year, and you have a team that really doesn't want to pass that much anyway, where's the excitement here? Where's the win? Where's the profit in this offense? I don't see it. The Titans are on my avoid the whole offense. You take Marcus Mariota if you want. I'm avoiding the whole Titans offense.
Even the running backs?
Well, but week to week, how are we going to know?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that's fair. Because I think that they'll ride the hot hand.
And Marcus Mariota, when you think of Mariota, what are you thinking? You're thinking read option, right? He's going to put the ball in the belly of the running back. DeMarco Murray was horrible in the read option last year. He needs to be getting the ball with a head of steam. Derrick Henry, big 250-pound back. He needs to be getting the ball with a head of steam. So if we're going to have an offense that leverages off of Marcus Mariota's running ability, it will take away the ability of their top 2 running backs to be playing to their strengths. So one way or the other, you're going to take somebody out of their comfort zone or lose some tactical advantage. And it all comes back to Mike Mularkey for me, guys. I mean, it's one of the most head-scratching. It comes into, you start appealing to factors like, are they going to sell the team or something? Why would you hire a head coach? No disrespect to Mike Mularkey if he's watching, but we know who Mike Mularkey is. We know what he's capable of as a head coach. We know what he can do guiding a team. He can make the Titans into a respectable 7 or 8 win team. Maybe because of that division, that may make the playoffs, but you had an opportunity to set the team in a new direction. And I looked at the picks they made in the draft, John Robinson, the new GM, and I just felt like it was uninspired. Conklin, they had a chance to take Laramie Tunsil. They take Conklin, who even the offensive line experts in the draft thought, this is an average starter upside as your number 8 pick. So I just look at the Titans and I say, I'm sorry, Titans fans.
So you just been saying what I've been saying, but much more in a shorter space. You think like you have that quarterback, like that franchise quarterback, like with Tampa Bay, like Jameis Winston, they're like, all right, we got our coach for him. It's more off the field stuff, and he's the guy. But what kind of like Mike Mularkey's signature win was beating a New Orleans Saints team that had like the worst defense in NFL history, and they needed 2-point conversion time
Right.
to get to overtime against a team that had Brandon Browner doing something that was.
Yeah, I think Delaney Walker caught like a ball off of someone's helmet or something in that game, right? I mean, yeah, it was.
It's like the emotion. Don't let. It's kind of like a fantasy football thing. Like, don't let the emotion get you. Like, if a player screws you one year, he might be good the next year. Or don't overcompensate. Like, in terms of draft strategy, it really feels like in the past few years. I really hope I'm not repeating questions I asked last time, but it's too late and I've had a beer and a half. Like, it was crazy, almost crazy talk a few years ago to take, like, a wide receiver in the first round. Now there's, like, 2 running backs going in the first round. Can you profit by going against this trend, or you think it's hard to say because this is a general question, but you go against that wide receiver heavy thing because there's so many good receivers, but people are just grabbing them.
Yeah, I think you can. I think there's a case to be made for Todd Gurley. We don't know how good he could be. He's now going to be well over a year removed from an ACL. It's easy to remember that he wasn't a year removed from his ACL last year. It looked so good. And he's going to be the center of the offense in a way that, again, if you've been playing fantasy football for 10, 15 years, you can remember where you were picking between Todd Gurley's. There were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 backs that their offense ran through the running back. You have Gurley and probably Le'Veon Bell and Ezekiel Elliott. Those are the 3 guys. And I do think Ezekiel Elliott is one of those players who could really reward fantasy football players with imagination. And what I mean by that is don't put artificial limits on what a player's capable of. We've seen this year after year. The developments in the NFL that swing fantasy football leagues are not things we could have anticipated, or at the very least they weren't within the range of outcomes that we knew going into the season. Randy Moss with the Patriots, or what Antonio Brown and Julio Jones have been doing. The year before they went on these tears, you would look at what they've done before and say, well, this is the range of outcomes. And you have to take in outside facts to say, well, maybe the range of outcomes is changing. Maybe the upper end of the range of outcomes is higher than we can even anticipate. And I think that looking at what DeMarco Murray did 2 years ago in that offense, looking at what he looked like, and some of that's because of overuse, but still. And then you take a player like Ezekiel Elliott and you put him in an offense that is designed to magnify the talents of a running back. He could easily be a 2,000-yard total yard player, maybe a 2,000-yard player. I don't know. He's young. He's 20. He's gonna be 21. So it's a young man's position. Get everything you can out of this guy. So Elliott, Gurley, and Le'Veon Bell. And then on Le'Veon Bell, I'll say this: we know every week Le'Veon Bell's on the field, he's going to be our number one ranked running back. Just period. With no clear, reliable number two option. Maybe it'll be Ladarius Green. We'll see. But there's no proven number two option in the passing game. It's Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be like Julio Jones and Devontae Freeman last year. Le'Veon Bell could catch 100 balls, or he won't play enough games to catch 100 balls, sadly, probably. But he'll catch 6, 7, 8 balls a game, in addition to 150 total yards and 1, 2, 3 touchdowns. It's going to be a wide-open offense. You just have to take D'Angelo Williams in the 9th or 10th round. You have to do it. And I think even if you don't take Le'Veon Bell in the first round, take D'Angelo Williams in the 9th or 10th round, because he's already been a league winner, and we've already seen Bell go down. So those are the 3 running backs I would consider in the first round. And I think if you take one of those running backs, you can look in the second round and still get – often you'll be able to get an Alshon Jeffrey, or you'll be able to get in the third round a T.Y. Hilton. You like Mike Evans, you can get him in the second round. And you can get Randall Cobb in the third round. So I'm okay with going out of the first round and not having my wide receiver 1, but I probably then would go back to wide receiver. I mean, running back, I'll give you the running back you would go running back with, Lamar Miller. He's another guy where we don't know how good he could be. We know how good he was with a limited set of touches in Miami. We'll see whether Joe Philbin and company were on to something when they weren't giving him 300-plus touches. I have a feeling they weren't. I have a feeling we'll look at him in Houston maybe as a top 3, top 5 fantasy running back when the dust settles. So I would advocate running back there, and then maybe Randall Cobb you target in the third round. And I really like Jeremy Maclin in the fourth round this year. So you can definitely get away with no wide receivers in your first 2 picks. But after that, you better start focusing on the position.
Now, we had Matt Harmon on this show because Matt Harmon is contractually obligated to be on every podcast.
He is.
It's amazing how this guy makes for us. But have you had a Matt Harmon experience? Like, he did his reception perception about Tyler Lockett, and I swear Tyler Lockett's like ADP went out for 3 rounds in 24 hours. If you feel like you've had the opportunity to actually control a player's value that much?
Oh, I mean, much
silky smooth. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just so excited to talk about Frank Gore. Somebody, my man Captain Carl Drogo tonight said, "Happy birthday, and may you continue to take Frank Gore in the second round." And hey, Frank Gore in the 7th round is a good value this year. And I'm not saying that tongue-in-cheek, although maybe I should be. Absolutely. I do think that, and this isn't one of those things I'm trying to puff off my chest or anything like that. My peacock nephew, Matt Harmon, might be, but I say that all in love. Yeah, absolutely. Evan Silva. Evan Silva is a voice in this industry that you can see once. I think that the RotoViz crew in general, especially with rookies, you will see ADP movement based on that. So I think that is something that you contend with. However, this is going to sound so bad. So you guys you're getting me drinking, and now like loose lips, right? The beautiful thing is, as a fantasy football player, is when you realize you were wrong, they still have some legs. Their value still has some legs because you've helped start the bandwagon. So there's a little bit of trade value left. So often first on, first off. So that's my tip to the Matt Harmons out there that are experiencing this new phenomenon of when you take a player and put his skills and what you see out there front and center, now you have to deal with that inflated price.
Yeah, they inflated price and then they inflated if something goes the other way. Okay, I had a couple of non-NFL stories I figured I'd throw out there. This one's for Sharona and her alma mater. So Tennessee's been having some issues. They just settled their Title IX lawsuit for less than they rated one home football game. $2.48 million. What you think on that?
Well, it 2.5 million rounded to the next whatever. To the plaintiffs, they also paid the attorney's fees, which I imagine were quite a significant chunk of change. And I haven't looked at the terms in any sort of detail, but from what I understand, there's also going to be some ramifications in terms of how UT polices itself. They're going to turn over their investigation and how they handle these things to an outside expert to determine whether they're handling it appropriately, which is really, if you looked at the lawsuit in any sort of depth, that's what they wanted. They wanted, I'm sure they were very happy with the money, don't get me wrong. Lawyers love money. But making sure that these cases are handled appropriately was very important to these young women who really put their life in their own hands by having to, actually come forward and do that. So they're going to be looking at how they handle these things, and they're also going to create some of the money is going, some money is going to be allocated to hiring additional personnel to make sure this is a far more independent process. And let us not forget Jimmy Cheek, who really probably caused all this, is Gonzo.
Jimmy Cheek?
Yeah, the main guy, the big guy, the head honcho, not the athletic director. That's Dave Hart, but the chancellor. I was trying to think, the chancellor. So he's going to be replaced, and if we can stop this from happening again, that's a good thing.
Definitely. Sigmund, since you're in Texas, somehow University of Texas has become almost like a minor league to the Baylor football program over the last couple years. Baylor, how has the reaction been there to what's happened? Because they've almost, we had the quasi-death penalty in basketball. I don't think they're going to do football ever again. But what about that reaction to just the constant stream? Like, more people seem to be going forward every day.
Yeah, and I think that disgrace, backing away, sideways, and it's interesting now because if you drive up I-35 from Austin to Dallas-Fort Worth, you go right past that new stadium, which was this amazing crown jewel, RG3, the program. I remember I went up there to cover RG3's pro day, and you could really feel Baylor. They were standing next to a Texas and a Texas A&M, which is what they had always wanted, even going through everything with basketball. And you see the sort of the blood that the tree was watered with now. And as you said, this is what happens with these situations. Once the veil is pulled back and something is exposed and people start to talk, then the full extent of the culture is in view. And I think that this is not just Baylor. I think that hopefully what's been going on with Baylor has sent a ripple through many athletic directors, chancellors, football coaches, police departments to say, what's lurking in our files? What have we willfully ignored? Because down here in Austin, on the other hand, like Ricky Williams got arrested by a UT cop, I think, just for not showing his ID or something. And down here, there is no special treatment. There was a rape case with a football player. Well, the jury can still, the jury system, which, hey, it's the best system we figured out so far. My point is that Baylor and the Waco community and that sort of unholy alliance, and I chose that word specifically because of the idea of Baylor and representing these certain values as an institution, and then once you find out what was actually happening, again, willful ignorance is probably being charitable.
Yes.
It's basically just whatever it takes for the football team to have carte blanche, for athletics in general to have carte blanche. So I hope that this has sent a ripple out to everybody, and at the very least going forward, we will see some of these practices come to an end, because now, thankfully, and Sharona, you and I have talked, I think both out in Twitterville and in DMs about our changing times, and at the very least, there's the possibility that the people that are parts of these kinds of conspiracies to keep rape culture intact, to allow football players to operate unchecked, that now they're worried and they have to think about their behavior. And perhaps this is what change will look like, is bringing out into the sunlight these practices that we all knew were happening, but now we have very specific instances, emails, we have people who are willing to come out and talk about what they knew and when they knew it. And this will obviously not be the last time we hear about this. Baylor's probably going to take the hit for the entire country and the problems with student athletics, police departments, college campuses. This has been an issue for a while, college campuses and sexual assault. So it's painful. And my friend Alex Dunlap, who I think was on a Westlake team with Drew Brees down here in Austin, did a lot of really great work on this. For the journalists out there, Jessica Luther down here, she's at SCATX. She's done great work on this. There's a lot of journalists that are doing really great work on the nexus of social issues and sports. And like you said at the top of the show, we're going to talk about things if they have something to do with football. But I think that we're finding more people that are open to using sports as an on-ramp to talk about social issues. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to me because, the UT lawsuit obviously was under the auspices of Title IX, and we saw what Florida State was obligated to pay under Title IX. And then when the allegations, as bad as they were, what Baylor did from an institutional standpoint, allegedly, but I mean, it does look like there's proof that it was completely and utterly mishandled pursuant to federal guidelines. What kind of hit they are going to take under Title IX, and their decision to keep Ken Starr, that was still interesting to me.
I forgot he was out there. I was like, what? But the Missouri people were like, dang, we could have just demoted our guy instead of firing him? Oh. Right. And then the reaction was the same. It was like, oh, well, he's demoted, You got slapped on the wrist. I guess that counts.
Well, I mean, yeah, like Jimmy Cheek, he is retiring, I mean, they don't just protect the athletes, they protect the decision makers too.
And talking of like the sports politics connection, even though his personal career is kind of appears to be winding down, the fact that Colin Kaepernick actually spoke out about the Alton Sterling shooting and it got out there shows the kind of power that sports players have. And a lot of them don't take it, but when they do, it echoes a lot louder.
Yeah, I mean, social activism in sports has a history. When you think about the Olympics and the boycott there, nearly 100 years, almost 100 years ago, and then Muhammad Ali, and there's a rather proud history there of that intersection, and you really can't. And you shouldn't separate the two, because what would sports be if it were allowed to operate unchecked without those? Why should we exclude equality and human decency and basic rights from our sports world? What kind of world would that be?
No, I'll speak on this really quickly. I mean, you brought up Missouri. I thought Missouri was again a moment when the real dynamic was laid bare for folks to see, because we know that these institutions of higher learning, football teams often drive these institutions. And speaking of equality or rights, again, if you go to a college on an academic scholarship, you are allowed to work. If you want to be a nuclear physicist, you're allowed to go during the summer and work. If you invent something, you can make money off of your invention. You can use your own name. When you're a college athlete, the school owns your name. The school can make money off of your name. You don't even own your name when you're a college athlete, which is it's draconian. It's so far beyond what any kind of sense of fairness would be. And yet, these football players are creating the buzz, the revenue, the events that the universities thrive on. And you saw in that case where the entire student community, well, I should say the entire student community, a block of the student community at the University of Missouri said, we have these problems, we've taken them to the president, he's not responsive to them, he's unfit to be our president. No amount of protests or hunger strikes and things like that would have brought about his dismissal. When the football team said they weren't going to play a football game, he's out. That shows you where the true power lies. The true power lies with the players. Even though they're exploited by the NCAA, even though they're exploited by their institutions. And if there can be a spark
exploited by outside companies. I mean, they didn't used to even own their image. They had to file a huge class rights lawsuit to get the rights to their own image.
Yeah. So if we could just have that moment of a spark of consciousness where the people who truly hold the power can see that they hold the power and they exercise the power. I think in our culture right now, in our society, it's workers and consumers. Workers and consumers create value, not financiers, not billionaires. They've convinced everybody that they deserve to hoard the value when all value is created by workers and consumers. It's just a question of us remembering that, realizing that. So I thought that moment was really inspiring, not just because they were able to use their collective power, but just to realize they had it and exercise it. I think that we know we're in a moment right now in this country that feels dire, and it can flip on its head if we just remember all of those things that get beaten into our head because they're almost cliches. They're cliches, we say them all the time because they're true, though. We have the power, we the people, and so on. We just have to remember that, and I hope that those little things like what happened at University of Missouri can help us remember where the true power lies. Now you see, you get me drinking a beer, and I'm going to start. This is where the Bloom for President 2020.
That's right. We start now.
We're going to continue to get the momentum.
I'm going to write you in this next election.
No, because I won't be able to. 2020, we're going to have at least two prongs. We're going to shorten the work week. I know everybody's good with that, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to eliminate the security theater from airports. Just eliminate it completely. There you go. So I promise those two things. I'll have a lot of other good people to work on all that other stuff. If you elect me president of this country, I will shorten the work week and I'll eliminate security theater from our airports, and we'll work on the rest. We have a few more years to figure out the rest.
Yeah, I would think, and also in the fantasy football industry, you might have to pass some kind of constitutional amendment making it legal because all the state legislatures pushing back against DFS, and even like year-long football.
Don't get me started.
People who make a living off this stuff, and it's a serious.
It's sad. It's sad.
Serious pushback.
Well, we had a nice thing. Until 4 or 5 years ago, and nobody really bothered to care to look into what was going on in our little corner of the world. And you know, Sharona will nod along as an attorney. See, as an attorney, I always joke, Sharona, like when you go through law school is when you learn the punchline to the big joke. It's disheartening, honestly. I mean, you can use the punchline for your own enrichment, but you do see that the game is rigged. I mean, you do see it's not. It really is. And look, whether you agree or disagree with this model, this is the model we're in right now. Regulated industries operate under regulations. And if you try to operate in a regulated industry without being regulated, guess what's going to happen?
Sooner or later, they're going to come for you.
They're going to come for you. Yeah. And that's just, it's America, baby.
It's ultimately, it's not even it's about how do we get our piece of the pie. I mean, it always boils down to that.
The camel under the tent, right?
Yeah.
That's what goes on over here at the legislature every year. It's just a big feeding frenzy for the money, and
Yeah.
absolutely, it's about deciding who makes the money and how that goes. It's you go all the way back up to campaign contributions. I mean,
Yeah.
I wish it was different, but it's not
Well,
yet.
well,
I'd
I
like to be
said,
president, and I'll change it.
well, I said for years that marijuana would start to be legalized once they figured out how to tax it, and lo and behold, here we are.
That'll be the one social issue where Texas will be not the last. I mean, not one of the first, but not the last. Again, because of the money that there is to be made. You're absolutely right, Sharona.
Yep.
Georgia and Tennessee, and actually that was, other than the slightly old man get off my lawn take about fantasy football, the Jake Plummer bit about how it's not even marijuana, it's like the the active ingredient that's helped him with his post NFL pain.
Yes.
Yep.
And they're even NFL players like Derek Morgan of the Titans actually has come out in favor of that, and not sure if it's hurting people's careers because the Ravens might have cut Eugene Monroe otherwise, but he did get really vocal right before they gave him the boot.
Well, there's some really excellent research out there that suggests that the opiates in marijuana can really help head injuries and the little what did Russell Wilson call those things, nano bubbles or whatever that are no, I mean seriously, there's some really good there's some really good research out there that is ongoing that suggests it would be there are some really beneficial effects for Alzheimer's and concussions and head neurological symptoms arising out of head injuries.
Yeah. Don't even see. You're going to all these issues that are near and dear to my heart.
Well, you'll have to come back. You'll just have to come back. That's all there is to it.
And
we can talk about
maybe one day on this podcast, instead of having beers, there would be other things that we would have.
Yeah,
That's for another conversation.
If we do the show live,
I would love to see Zach smoke a doobie.
Yeah. In this brave new future that's coming.
Yeah. Or, I mean, listen, like in Denver and some of these other places, it's not even smoking, it's the food. I mean, because food is a much more viable medium to introduce those effects.
Oils.
Yes. Anyway, vaping.
I don't know anything about any of this, though. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, this is definitely spitballing. It is odd. State of Washington, pot is legal, DFS is not. What a country, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll keep you from making some decisions you'll regret.
That's possible, yeah. But having been on, this is a question I feel like the answer is pretty straightforward. But okay, so 2 major sports championships this year. Cleveland and Pittsburgh have won them. So baseball or the NFL, which one does Cleveland get and which one does Pittsburgh get? If it was up to you.
Yeah. The Indians are on fire right now, so let's go ahead and give them. Let's right what went wrong the few times they've had been close to the cusp, and then of course the Steelers, because I think that if Antonio Brown was healthy, the Steelers would have been right there last year. I think they could have beaten Denver, absolutely could have beaten Denver, and this is an exciting Steelers team, and I would love to see them get a chance with a freewheeling, wide-open Steelers team that we haven't really seen until really a year or two ago in the history of the Steelers, and Todd Haley, which links all the way back to Dick Haley, his dad, who was one of the architects of the great Steelers dynasty. So let's do it. Let's keep it all up here in the great Lake Erie, northern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, Steel Country. Let's do it.
Cleveland Cubs World Series would be pretty interesting. Let's talk about a lot of history there. And I mentioned baseball. Uh-oh.
Yeah, Cecil would be very mad.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Joe. I already cursed. So sorry, Joe. Okay, so Sigmund, so where does give the FBG kind of hard sell before we call it a night?
Sure. Yeah, sure. No, well, we love football. We attack it from every angle. I think we're over 60 staff members now. Every angle of fantasy football, every angle of football. You love offensive line play. You love defense. You love DFS. We love dynasty leagues. We obsess about it. And again, all of our writers come from our community. It's a big clubhouse. There's room for everybody, and we never really sleep because we enjoy it. It's always about love and passion for not just football and fantasy football, but being part of the community, the ever-growing, never-ending conversation. And it's a really beautiful thing to have got to be part of this and to see where this is all going to lead. And come and check out our podcast or our newswire or our forums. They're all free. The Mobile Dominator app, trust me, it's the best. And then eventually you'll become part of the subscriber group, because it's the fantasy football inner circle, and it's not so much about the information edge anymore. I think Football Guys used to be like, we don't want people to know about Football Guys. I want to be the only one in my league that knows about Football Guys. But now information is out there. I think it's just more about being part of the community, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing to get to spend time with you two also, always.
Much love, much love. Now Sharona, is a Back Talk hit the airwaves this week?
Back Talk is hitting the airways once again this week on Friday. We're doing a Friday show because my guest this week, tomorrow night was the best time to do his segment. So we're going to be doing his segment. He's a Titans guy. He follows the NBA. And great guy. I'm real excited to have him on. We're going to talk some NBA, talk about Dwayne Wade and Kevin Durant and all of that. And we may talk some out. I haven't touched base with him to see if he wants to talk about it, so we'll see. Yeah, Friday, 10 a.m.
Excellent. And unusually I actually have stuff out. I recently posted an article comparing my Scott Fish Bowl draft picks to beers, so that was fun. And the interview train keeps going at the twoquarterbacks.com, where I'm doing the Scott Fish Bowl interviews. If it weren't for Sal and Lake over there, I don't know if this would happen, so thanks to those guys. We're to get Sal Stefanel, two-quarterback guy. I feel like he's the one who got that kind of going, and he is
absolutely
one of them Canadian dudes. So we'll see about the American to Canadian beer exchange.
I feel like we haven't said hi to Don enough tonight.
We didn't say hi to Don. I was a little annoyed. Like my friend Don, who I saw this weekend, he was all, you got to mention me on your show. And then one week I did, and he decided I didn't listen. I'm like, thanks, man. So to our one listener, hi. And many more. I mean, when Sig's involved, we got Sig talking, get him all fired up. It's good stuff.
Yeah, but he's
Sig
a
2020.
regular.
You better get those buttons started. I'm telling you.
I like it.
All right.
Get that Football Guys hush money. So thanks everybody for being on the show tonight. To Sigmund, to Sharona, and just follow us on Twitter.
Thanks
it's a
again,
fun
Sig.
ride, and as we like to say at the end, kiss my grits.
All right.